bit uncomplicated and drop our top of the zipper down a little bit from the armhole, and you've got a notch there actually where that is. And the rule, of course, is that it should open 7 inches above and below the waist, so that we get this a big enough opening through the waist to clear her shoulders or her hips or whatever. And it's a lapped zipper, so it's going to have just the one row of stitching, and that visible row of stitching will actually be on the front, so that the lap is from the back. Where's our red dress? Macy, can you grab it for us? So this way, let's zipper closed. When you view her from the front, you're kind of just hopefully, you know, seeing like flow around. Because if we reversed it and we had the stitching on the back, then if you view her from the front, you might sort of see into the lap and see the zipper, okay? That's not what we want. And we almost always zip on the left side when we zip on the side. I guess that's because, you know, right-hand people tend to dominate. So I have, with regular stitch length, closed up my side seam above and below the notches. And then between the notches, I did a basting stitch. I know that there's other ways to put in a zipper like without basting it closed. And hey, if that works for you, go for it. And then, you know, occasionally you have a fabric that gives you needle holes, like a coated something or leather or whatever, and you have to not baste together. But thankfully, I've chosen well. I can baste together. And so I'm back on basting stitch. I have pinned my zipper to the back seam allowance only. So I'm only going through one layer of fabric and the zipper tape. And I shortened my zipper because it was too long. And see, I clipped it with my pinking shears, so hopefully it survives. And I positioned it so that, where's my top? My little zipper stop is like right at my notch. I mean, if you had extra length and you wanted to just extend it up here so that the top of the tape went into the armhole seam, you could probably do that. But if you don't have enough length, obviously don't do that. And now I'm just going to baste it to my seam allowance, and I usually just stitch down the middle of the zipper tape when I do this. What was that giggle? That chuckle?
Oh, nice.
Okay. Now there is, you know, we're going on a curve over the body. I mean, it's kind of straight in that, like, when we look at the zipper head on, it should be visually straight. But it's a little more challenging than just putting it completely in like a straight center back or something. But not to worry. Then, the zipper closed. We go back to regular stitch length.
I guess that was best.
That was basted. We go to the iron. We press.
I love your sound effects. That's good.
It's just like iron.
Yeah, she does.
I've had a lot of practice. so that I'm still, like, all this is right here is seam allowance fabric. I haven't shoved any of, like, the dress into that little bit extending over there. So here's my, sort of my basted seam line. I know this is the part where, can you zoom in?
I wish there was a pause button.
Or you could just stop and start.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. It's
That's
just
multiple videos, all of our videos.
But you would think iPhone would like put a pause button.
God,
Maybe they do and you don't know.
I love
Yeah,
that.
it's like one of those, a bunch of tricks you don't know about your iPhone because they can't just put it in plain view.
Well, you know you can take a picture while videoing, right?
Yeah.
I thought that was the pause button, and I realized it was snapping pictures.
Whoops.
Okay, so after I have like, pressed it well and made sure that it's only seam allowance in there, I come back and kind of edge stitch along there. Oops. I gotta feel to make sure that I haven't gotten anything else in there. Okay. And so this action that I'm doing right now is what offsets it so that the zipper kind of opens, you know, not at the true side position and allows it to lap, you know. And see, when you get up here around the little pull, sometimes it can, you know, kind of get in the way. So I usually leave my needle down, if, you know, if I can do this, and get it out of the way. Okay. How'd I do? Nothing caught there. It's offset now. Yeehaw. So all that's left is to do my outside stitching. And I should go press. Always good to press. I'm gonna leave that guy. Polka dot. I love lap zippers, as some of you've heard, because there's only the one row of stitching that we have to get perfect. You know, centered zippers is like 2 rows of stitching. They both have to be nice, and of course then they have to be like equidistant from the opening. Hence the name centered. So, and you see lapped more in ready to wear than you do centered. There's my end. Usually I feel my little stopper, but I just realized I don't have a stopper because I cut it off. Regular stitch length. And we're somewhere around, you know, 3/8 a half. I mean, you gotta stitch far, you know, like, you don't want to be on top of your zipper teeth, obviously, but you gotta catch everything too. So you only have about 1/4 of an inch wiggle room there. And you don't want it to be like too wide. There. And I'm also actually a big fan of doing this stitch by hand. Maybe someday I'll show you that. So can you see what's happening? If fact that we're going around this curve, I'm getting, you know, like there's actually more fabric over here than there is in there, so I gotta sort of work it and watch it and pray. Oops, my needle went down.
Whoops.
I know.
You don't even go straight.
I went, I don't know, it's, you know, if you're, yes, because if you're gonna go 90 degrees, well,
It has to be perfect.
some of us think it has to be perfect 90 degrees. If it's, you know, if you're at an angle, well, then it's. You know,
Whatever you
just-
wanted.
Exactly. And that's too small of a spot to like try to curve. Oh, mercy, there's still something connected, okay. Alrighty, and so we evaluate our stitching, and if we find it to be wonderful, we can then remove our basting. And our zipper should function. I don't recommend doing this.
Of course not.
You're gonna get stabbed.
That or Miss Kiriko's gonna rip the fabric.
Yeah, fabric's really what I'm worried about. Not myself.
Not you either, no.
Yeah. Some. We'll get the rest of it. We got to pull out all those little threads now. But see now, where's the top? Okay, let's get that.
Do very much.
Okay. Now find it there. We found it. So she'll be like that. And of course, if she's matching zipper, even when we catch a glimpse from her backside, we won't see anything. And so, you know, to go a little darker, typically, just like with thread, if you can't find the perfect match, because it's kind of in shadow anyways, you know. And that's your zipper. And oh my
Yay.
gosh, if we could have zippers in by Tuesday, then all we'd have to do would be like sleeves, really, and necklines.
It's like Tuesday.
hems,
What?
yeah. Tuesday
A week from Tuesday.
I know.